Hey, Shane. Shane.
Yeah, mate, yeah.
What are you drinking there?
Oh, just a bit of tea, mate.
So was that tea?
Yeah, tea, it helps relax me, calms me down.
Okay, well, put that shit down. Actually, you know what? Throw it out. I don't even want to fucking see it in my face right now.
Finish it
No,
first?
don't finish it. You know why? We got a bag of Australian Wolffighter coffee sitting in the kitchen, ready to go.
What the fuck is that?
You're telling me you never heard of Australian Wolffighter coffee?
No,
Let me hit you with some knowledge, bro.
Jeez, you sound so revved up about this.
Yeah, I've had about 3 cups of it already. Okay, I'm ready to go. Mate, it's veteran-owned, veteran-operated. Mm-hmm. They're raising awareness for veteran issues. Mm-hmm. They give back to the veteran community. What's better than that?
Well, nothing.
Exactly. So like I said, throw the tea out. AustralianWolffighterCoffee.com. Check it out. That was empty, right?
Yeah.
All right, good. Alright, welcome back to another episode of the Maladjusted Monkeys. I'm Tommy Archer, joined always by my co-host, Mr. Shane Clump. Shane, thanks for being here. At your own house again.
Oh wow, that was it.
No, I'm not going to make fun of you today.
Oh, okay, cool.
Because I got no more insults left, mate. I got nothing left. Today I'm really excited about introducing this guest. You want to talk about a man who's seen it all, done it all, been through some things and come out the other side, then you look no further than this bloke. He joined the QPS, the Queensland Police Service, at the age of 19, been in Dog Squad, done some work with the covert unit, fought through depression, PTSD, and lived through it. Shaun O'Gorman, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, boys. Pleasure to be here.
Oh, mate, thanks for coming. Mate, obviously that intro, mate, does not do you justice.
Well, mate, he's seen it all and done it all. I think that's a bit over the top.
You've seen and done a lot more than me and Shane have, that's for sure. There is so much ground to cover with you, but I guess a starting or jumping off point would be when you joined the QPS, mate. How did it happen for you and when did it happen?
Sure. Mate, the simple version, so my old man was in the job, was a cop for 42 years, retired after 42 years. He was absolutely policeman's policeman, was at one point second most decorated cop in Australia for bravery.
Oh, wow.
So pretty full on guy. And so from the time I can remember, mate, that was my thing. Mm. So I worshipped my old man. He was my hero. So I was like, well, I just want to be a cop. So it was a pretty easy thing for me. So I remember the first time I thought about being in the dog squad. I was 6 and we went to an open day at the police academy. I saw the dogs bite people and jumping through windows and I was like, that's me.
Yeah.
So I was pretty lucky that I was 6, literally. And I remember that vividly. I was like, yeah, that's it. So from there, that was always what it was going to be.
Yep.
So then went through school, hated school, pretty much failed. Mum and dad sent me to a private boys' school, wasted all this money because I had no interest.
God, that story sounds familiar. Yeah.
Because I was just like, mate, it's cops. Like, I'm going to be a cop.
Yeah.
I didn't give a rat's ass. So, and they were always like, mum and dad split up. He wasn't around a lot, but he'd be like, man, I'm paying this money. You got to work hard. And he said to me, you don't think that I'll be able to get you in the job. And I was thinking, he was president of the police union at that stage. And he's very well known in the cops. Was a bit of a living legend. So I was like, well, you pretty much run the place.
Yeah.
Get in.
Yep.
But I didn't. So I failed high school, essentially. Passed all my aptitude test, smashed it to go in as a cadet. Failed school, got the letter going, you're out. So I went and worked shit jobs. Hated it.
What was the minimum requirement at that time?
Oh, mate, it was TE school back then. So it was a long time ago. So
yeah.
Like OP, but it was like, I don't know, I got pretty much the lowest one you possibly could.
Okay.
I only know one person got lower than me and he was a mate of mine. So I literally failed it and I was on track at one stage to get the marks you need. I can't remember what the numbers were now, and then I got suspended for some bullshit at the end of school. Like it was definitely a window into what was coming.
Yeah.
Then, so I went out and had to go to night school and had to go to TAFE and do a course that they had just started. So if I had a knuckle down and worked at school, this thing came in literally as I failed school. So it was just this whole, like the story of my life, like I'm just, how's this so unfair?
Yeah.
But if I wasn't a dickhead, it would have been fine.
Yeah.
Went to night school, then went and worked at a law firm and got accepted to the job after probably 12 months. And I was working for a big law firm in town as a law clerk and one of the partners there said, we'll pay for you to do law. Be a lawyer, come here, you've got potential, blah, blah. And I was like, fuck that, no. Go to the police. And this guy, we're in this massive office town, this guy's making $1 million, and he was looking at me like, no one gets offered this. And I said, mate, thank you. I've no interest. I'm a cop.
Yeah.
And I was like 18 or 19. Had no idea.
He'd obviously never seen dogs chase down and chew on someone before.
Exactly.
He doesn't know what he's
He
talking
doesn't know
about.
how fun that was.
Yeah.
So I joined the job and I got sworn in about. I was only a matter of a few weeks from where I would have been because I was going as a cadet. So it was an 18-month course and I did a 6-month course.
Yep.
So it all worked out in the end, but it was certainly the story of my life to come because I did it the hardest way possible when it could have been so easy.
Yeah.
So that just continued. So I got sworn in December the 8th, 1989, and I loved it. It was just awesome.
Yep.
Best job ever.
Where'd you do, like, your first year?
First year was City Station.
Oh, okay.
So I went to City Station.
Yep.
And then I went out to Boondall, so I was all Brisbane-based.
Yep.
There was a whisper at one stage they were going to send me to Mount Isa or somewhere because my old man was in the job.
Yep.
And I was like, I didn't want to go, but I was like, if that's what I've got to do, I'm glad I didn't. But
Yeah, bugger that.
nah. But so mate, it was gold. So I joined the police, 19. I'm cruising around in my uniform on the Queen Street Mall. Just thought I was the coolest kid in town.
And the time you got in, like, those were hairy times back then. The way policing's done then is differently. And as a 19-year-old taking on that responsibility,
Yeah, mate.
was it daunting at all?
Wow. Oh, yeah, it was. Yeah, I was shitting myself.
Because I was about 24 when I joined. 23, 24.
Mate, I'm 19. Like, I now at 49 look back and go, wow, I had no idea. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. I'm 93 or 94 kilos now, 73 kilos, 6'3", like I was just tall, skinny.
Yep.
And I remember and because I grew up 19 years with my dad, every time I'd be around him and his mates or whatever, it was all war stories. And they were, same as you guys to me, I guess, me to them, they were just it was so full on.
Yeah.
So, they were telling me stories about, weren't telling me. I'd be sitting there as a kid, like, just quiet as I could, so he didn't remember I was there and kicked me out.
Yeah.
And they'd be telling stories. Oh, yeah, remember when Bluey's my dad's nickname. Had red hair. He's got red hair. Blonde hair now, white hair. They'd be like, oh, Bluey, what about, like, last week or, 6 months ago or 2 years ago, same thing you boys would go through as military and with policing.
Yeah.
Oh, man, we grabbed that bloke and he did this and he pulled a gun on us and we bashed him and we did that. Man, and I was just there like, this is the best fucking thing ever. So as a kid, I was just like, this sounds like the best job in the world.
Yep.
And Dad's been diagnosed with PTSD and depression and that later in life.
Yep.
But now looking back, even when I was young, he was pretty volatile, pretty angry, never violent or anything, but, men of that generation, he was born in 1940s.
Did that diagnosis come after he left the force?
Yeah, just sort of as he was leaving, but after I got diagnosed, probably 3 or 4 years later.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So I think he saw that and then realized, because we're very similar persons.
Yeah. Yep.
So he's an alpha male, full on. But yeah, so that 19, walking the beat, doing all that sort of stuff, standard stuff, got in trouble from the start. Just doing stupid shit. Because I was just sort of, as silly as it sounds, and I mean it sincerely, it was like I had 19 years police service almost before I joined, in the sense of I was so obsessed by it.
And you would have had not first-hand experience, but you're surrounded by the culture already, so you kind of know in a way what you're walking into.
And my dad was very well known, so if you think it's a very different era now to back then, like I was born in 1970, so you're talking 70s, early 80s. There's no internet, obviously.
Yep.
There was TV news, newspapers. He was always on the news for the police union president role, or for policing roles. Like he's been in multiple shooting incidents. Shot and killed one guy who was an armed robbery and had a big car chase, and they caught him in a garden shed. He tried to kill him. Been to other jobs, sieges, and pulled people off the top of the Story Bridge. Like he was full on guy. So I was growing up around that, going, "This is awesome." So when I joined, I just walked into it going, well, that's what you do.
Yeah.
So I just took the experience that I've heard of him and his mates who'd been in it for quite some time into my first year in the job, and just like, well, this is what you do. So driving like an idiot, lights and sirens everywhere, no authorization.
Yep.
And I remember this epitomised what I was like, as stupid as it sounds. I was in the city with a training officer, great guy, and he's only, like I was 19, he's probably 21 or 22. And he's like, there was an hold-up alarm call. So they called for an armed hold-up alarm, and we were down near Fridays, and it was at the Mice in a car park.
Yep.
So before he's even registered on the radio, I think it was my second day, because the first day was just the bullshit. Second day I'm out on patrol, and I just hit lights and sirens, drove over the gutter, like tore up round the corner. He's going, like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, we got to that thing, like this. So we get there, like I skid to a halt. I jump out of the car. The lights are going. Like literally, I leave the keys in the ignition, jump out, just fucking pull my gun out, start running into this car park.
It's tunnel vision.
Just tunnel vision.
Yes.
Because I was like, I've been waiting for this my whole fucking life.
Yep.
And so I run in there on my own. He's locking the car and getting the keys out of it. Because I'm thinking, well, who would steal a police car? Like, I was just like, I'm so naive. Like, we're here, everyone. Like, relax.
Everyone calm down. The heroes are here.
So I run to this car park and then he comes in, a couple of minutes later and just, what the fuck were you doing? And I was like, I'm looking at him like, what are you doing? There was a laughing. So I go back to Stacey, get this horrible dressing down by one of the sergeants, like he just abuses me. And absolutely, I don't give a fuck who your father is, like he just gives it to me. And that just continued for pretty much 30
That's
years.
That's a rough start. Day 2 on the job. That's a rough start. But the dressing down didn't change how you wanted to. No.
I was sort of, I was scared because I'm like, I could lose my job and blah, blah, blah. But then I was like, nah, it'll be fine. And I guess I'd never, being that young and stupid at 19, I was talking to a group of young 15-year-old schoolboys today and at a private school in Brisbane, and I said to them, like, your prefrontal cortex in your brain isn't developed to understand consequence of action at 19. And like we talked about at dinner before, that's why we send young soldiers to battle, because they're too young and dumb to realise what the real consequence is.
Yep.
That's literally why we send young men into battle. So I didn't really give a fuck. I just didn't understand it.
Yeah.
So I was just like, well, you're obviously soft because you don't do what I do.
Yeah,
So-
and it's interesting now how that's because it is predominantly very young men, and now they're trying probably the last 5-10 years trying to train the guys before they go in cultural sensitivity and stuff, and wondering why it's not really taking, and
You're just not ready for it as a young bloke.
No.
One of our last episodes, we were talking to our mate who deployed with us. He turned 21 when we were overseas.
Yeah.
And that didn't sink in until I'm 30, you're 29. At the time, we were like, he turned 21, whatever. Looking back at that, I'm like, fuck, that's young.
Yeah.
To be like leading
That's
men,
so
that is young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a young guy who's 19 who's a mentoring client of mine, and a really nice young bloke, really quite an emotionally sensitive young guy, and works in childcare, like just a really nice young man. And I'm looking at him now going, wow, you're a kid.
Yeah.
And I joined the police, you guys in the military at those young ages. Like, I'm like, holy shit, that's pretty scary now. And I look back and people would, and so older guys, like guys your age, who at 30 when I joined, I was like, could you be any older? Like, like, what the fuck are you doing? Guys my age would be like, surely you're going to die and get out of here. This is ridiculous.
move over, old man.
And and guys even mid-30s, right, would be like senior connies or, have 2 stripes or sergeants that might have been 35 or 40 and were quite disgruntled. So they're quite quiet. They're quite, like I'd be in the car with one of them and go, they'd call a fight, there'd be a brawl in a nightclub and I'd be like, fuck, let's go.
Let's
So
get
I'd
to it, yep.
drive like an idiot, million miles an hour, lights and sirens to get there, and they'd be going, slow down, mate. Like, what's a rush? Let them fight their way out of it. And I'm like, huh? Because I was thinking, I don't want to get there when it's over. Like, what's the point of that? We're supposed to get there when the fight's on and get in it.
Get involved in the action.
But now I look and think, what an idiot. Because these guys are like, go there slow, mate, so you don't risk killing us.
Yep.
The way you drive, you don't. And then we get there, it's all looked after, and we'll just pick up the pieces.
Yeah, it's like that analogy of the old bull and young bull on the hill.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I was that young bull till I was about 40. I wish I was
You're still a young bull.
I wish I was joking.
So, mate, how long did you do in general duties?
Probably about 18 months, 2 years, tops.
Yep.
I went to CIB as a detective for about 30 seconds, like 6 months or something.
Which wasn't for you?
No, I thought it was at the time. Well, because I was trying to get in the dog squad and that was super hard to get into. So 6,000 police at the time, 43 dog handlers across the state.
Yep.
So I was like, man, it's going to be pretty hard to get into. So I went to the branch sort of in a stopgap capacity, I guess, because I thought it would take me a few years. And didn't enjoy it.
Yep.
Too much paperwork and too much bullshit.
Yep.
And like still had a lot of fun, but I was involved in the job with a bloke, an armed robbery job, and a long story short, but he took 2 police in a pursuit, crashed a car, took guns off these 2 police, hijacked their car, took the police car, and I was, I think, 21, my partner, who's now a chief superintendent of the job, was a good mate of mine who worked in the law as a law clerk with me when I joined the cops.
Yep.
In the first 6 months, he goes, fuck, that looks like the best fun ever. So he joined the police.
Oh, wow.
I'd never even thought of it before.
Yeah.
Great guy. Awesome guy. And him and I are in the car together in our shirt and tie.
Yep.
We're all pretty cool.
Got your binder ready to write notes?
Nothing, like pen and paper, like nothing. Notebook, had our 38 and our ankle holster, thinking we were pretty cool. And this job comes over about this armed robbery, and they're like, so we go, yeah, we'll go. And the world explodes shortly as we're tearing there in an unmarked car. Lights and sirens, I'm driving, he's terrified. And he's like, which is a general theme. And they go, that CIB unit for us, can you proceed to the bank? To contain the scene. And I looked at him and I'm like, what the fuck are we doing when we get there? And he's like, well, I don't know. Because we weren't supposed to be out in the car on our own. We'd gone out on some bullshit idea just so we could go out and drive around and not have to be in the office. And then so the chase starts, so we don't even go to the bank. We end up, this guy hijacks a police car, crashes it, jumps on the back of a truck with a rifle and was firing shots at the public, runs into and steals a hire car from this hire car place. And we were like 20 or 30 seconds off the back of him. And I'm going to my mate, get ready, motherfucker, this is we're on. And we're flying down the wrong side of Nudgee Road at about 130 kilometres an hour trying to get to him. And then he crashed at the intersection of Nudgee Road and the one that runs down from the racecourse, can't remember the name of it. He crashed there and we got there about 20 seconds after a uniformed sergeant got him at gunpoint. And then old mate pointed a shotgun, pulled it, but it didn't fire. It misfired.
Whoa.
So we got there just as he took him out. And that was I was like, yeah, I don't reckon this CLB stuff's for me, because for the next 12 hours, me and my mate sat in his room with this massive big roid boy lunatic armed robber, hoping he wasn't going to bash us in the room while the real detectives did the work, and then came in and were like, you boys go outside. And I was terrified. I was sitting there going, this guy's tough as fuck and I'm scared. and then we were there doing paperwork and typing shit for like hours. And I went home that day and went,
you're missing out on the action.
Too hard.
You're coming in, most of the time you're coming in after the fact. Like once all the action's died down, you're coming in, like I said, with a binder and going, righto, who's got the details of everyone for me? And then you investigate.
So just not mine.
And I've only known you for a short period of time, but I can already tell that's definitely not for you.
No.
So you were there, for 2 minutes?
Yeah, would have been maybe 6 months, mate. Wouldn't have been that 4 months, maybe.
Yeah. And then straight back to GDs?
No, from there I went to the doggies. So
straight over to the doggies?
Straight to doggies from there.
For a permanent position there?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it was different back then because it was the guy who ran it picked who he wanted pretty much.
Yep.
So it was pretty unfair process, really. But I went out, so I made sure every job I went to, every job there was a dog handler at, I went to.
Yep.
And I'd back them up on their tracks when they were chasing armed robbers. If they ran through the mud, I ran through the mud.
Yep.
Whatever they did, I did.
Yep.
And I just pestered one bloke in particular who was a hard worker who ended up being a great mate of mine. I just pestered him all the time. How do I get in? What do I do?
Yep.
And he was just like, well, if you really want to get in, come out with me on your days off and work. I was like, done. And I was still like, I'd moved back into my mum's house, I think, at that stage. So I was living at home with mum and my sister. And I remember one night I was going out on my day off, so I had overalls, my gun and everything at home. Didn't even tell anyone. Like, now I look back, I was insane. I didn't even say, hey, I'm going out with this dog squad guy on my day off. He goes, hey, I'll come and get you Friday night. I'm like, yeah, cool, see you at 8 o'clock. And he didn't turn up till 9:15. It was pissing down rain. I remember it so vividly. He came screaming down the street, no lights or sirens, like into the driveway. I go downstairs with my bag and I'm already ready to roll. Jump in the car and he goes, so it was ref at X, no GPS or anything.
Yeah.
Street director, he goes, fuck, look up this street at Woolman. I lived at Zulmia. And we just lights and sirens to this job. And it was just like 8 hours of that. Just lights and sirens, jobs, car chases, jumping fences, going a million miles an hour. And I remember the car stank of dog because it was raining. It it was putrid. And I remember sitting there going, well, this sucks, but the rest of this is amazing.
Yeah.
He dropped me home at probably it was longer than that, at like 6 a.m. And I remember getting out of the car and just walking inside. Like we were doing, at one stage we were tracking a guy for an armed robbery through Paddington, jumping fences. And he turned to me and he's like, don't you fucking lose me, motherfucker. He goes, my life's in your hands. And I was like, Jesus. So we were just jumping fences and we didn't catch the guy. And I went home and lay in bed and could not sleep because I was like, this is the best
It's that
job in the world.
adrenaline. Yeah.
So this is the best job in the world. So then I went, just kept pestering him, went and walked dogs from the dog kennels like I did everything I could.
Yep.
And then he vouched for me and I got in.
Yep.
Yeah, nice.
So it was a different sort of process.
Did you stay doggies then for the rest of your...
No, so I stayed in there for about 9 years.
Okay.
And then went to surveillance for about 18 months, COVID surveillance, because I had, probably 8 and a bit, 9. I had 7 of those 9 years solid complaints. So driving complaints, assault complaints.
Okay, yep.
I was just really unlucky.
Yeah, it sounds like that.
Which is my standard line. Yeah. That's rehearsed. But because and as much of a wanker as I sound when I say this, I worked so hard because I just fucking loved it.
Yeah.
That I would often do 300 or 350 kilometres around Brisbane in a shift, in an 8-hour shift.
Fucking hell.
Just driving.
Hunting it.
Like jobs to jobs, like one side of Brisbane to the other, lights and sirens, when there was no code 2, like code 2 is lights and sirens, code 1's like someone's imminently going to be killed. I'd just go lights and sirens to just about anything, and there was no speed cameras, there was no red light cameras, like there wasn't any real issue. But, I'd get complaints from the public would ring the police and go, this police car went past me at 150 kilometres an hour on Kimpy Road.
Yep.
And they'd get the rego. Nah, they'd look up and I would be one of 2 dog handlers working. And they'd be like, was that you? No.
No, it's not.
Deny.
Yep. If we both say no.
Constantly. And because you work on your own, there's no calming influence.
Yeah.
So, like, literally, I'm in the car on my own. And I had a lot of fear and doubt insecurity. I did when I was a teenager. Mum and Dad busted up, like, standard story. So I'm in the job, doing all this lunatic stuff, feeling like I was an imposter. Because I didn't feel like I was brave or tough or exception, like anything.
Yeah,
I wasn't exceptional. I was just a very normal cop. But all these other people are going, man, you're a lunatic. And no one would go, you're brave or you're courageous. They'd go, you're a fucking lunatic. You're an idiot.
Yeah.
Which, as you know, in the Aussie vernacular of male military or police means you're a superstar.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, Jesus, they think I'm something I'm not. And I probably didn't think of it this rationally, but in hindsight, I was so terrified of being caught as a fraud that I worked harder.
Yep.
So I did more stupid shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That was brave, but it was just stupid. And if there was a job, I was at a job at Banya one night, very early in my dog squad career, got there, bloke was firing shots out of a house. They cordoned it. I come from the other side of Brisbane, 1,000,000 miles an hour. Did my standard, like, skid to a halt, so, like, the tyres squeal, there's smoke coming off the car, like...
Announce your presence.
I
get that.
Just being an absolute cockhead.
Yep.
And, I'd handbrake slide to a stop, and, I just thought I was so cool. And I'd get out, and I walked up to the inspector, the boss, and I'm like, boss, so what do you want me to do? And he goes, Soggy's my nickname, I guess. So, Soggy, what do you want to do? And I was like, oh, shit. And I said, well, I'll go and do a recce of the house. And he's like, okay, who are you going to take with you? And there was 2 CIB guys there, 2 detectives who I knew. They're like, my aides are idiots. I was like, I'll take them. And he goes, okay, no dramas. He goes, don't go in. I go, no, of course I won't. We're all going to the corner. And they go, we're going in. And I wasn't going to.
Yep.
I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, of course. So there's 3 mindless idiots.
Yeah.
No one has the courage to go, why don't we not do that? Why don't we wait and contain it and ring the guy and call him out?
Yep.
I was like, fuck, of course we're going in. Because I don't want them to think I'm a coward.
Yeah, yep.
They obviously think the same thing. It was like the 3 Stooges.
Yeah.
We go to the house. Very long story. Kick the door in, run in. The guy runs down the hallway. I see him, and as we were going up, I said, you boys go right and contain. There was a lounge room. You could see there was people in it. And the job was a bloke had hostages. But when we got there, it didn't seem like that. It seemed like there was a party or something going on. So I said, fuck, we'll just go in. So we just walked up and booted the door, didn't announce ourselves, just booted the door. And as we booted the door, the bloke runs across the door down the hallway, in an old, like a post-war home. And I'd say to the boys, you go right to the front of the house, I'll clear the rest of the house. So he runs past, I sprint after him, and he dives on wooden floor and slides under the bed. So I dive on his back and grab him by the hair and as I'm dragging him out, I've got my pistol out, as I'm dragging him out, he's got his hand on the butt of a weapon. I didn't know what it was.
Yep.
So I've cracked him in the back of the head, and he let the weapon go, and then I've cuffed him. And then we drag him out. I'm like, holy shit. The boys are like, oh, fuck, that was close. I'm like, yeah. Now, in hindsight, again, I go, it was a druggy party. I think he was just firing shots out of it because he was off his head.
Yeah.
He was going to try and get rid of the gun.
Oh, yeah.
But if he had come out with that thing, I would have killed him.
Maybe, yeah, be gone.
Yeah.
And again, I just go, wow, I didn't need to be in that situation.
Yeah.
Yep.
But again, I loved it.
Can you remember what you thought when you got back in the car after that job was done?
I shit myself.
Yeah? Yep.
And I would often drive away from those jobs and go, fuck, that could have gone so bad. And because I'm on my own, you didn't have someone to debrief.
Yeah, I was about to say that. There's no talking about let's have an AO and
was there any kind of debriefing, like once you like talking with the other doggies, or?
Yeah, Shane, but it was just bullshit. Like
it's all alpha male, fucking.
Yeah, it's all just like motherfucker. Last night should have seen this. Like I would be, and it was later on when mobile phones came out, but I would be driving to a job, 130 kilometres an hour, lights and sirens. Ring a mate of mine. So the guy who got me in was in Townsville Dog Sport at that stage. I'd ring him, know he's working. He'd answer at 3 a.m, and I'd be like, I'm going to get someone else, motherfucker. I'm beating you. Like we'd compare figures, like just full on.
Yeah.
And it sounds like so irresponsible and so stupid, but it was driven out of such a sense of wanting to help.
Yeah.
Wanting to stand between the thin blue line between good and evil, wanting to help people, wanting to lock up bad guys. Like that. The drive wasn't ego. It was just I was so black and white believing at the foundation of who I was to lock up crooks.
Yeah.
And nothing else mattered.
Yep.
Not my safety, and I didn't think about other people's safety. Like I didn't think about, because I was again I'm a late bloomer. I was still 25 and didn't have a clue. So I was like, well, if I'm driving 1,000,000 miles an hour, no one will come out. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like I could be driving super quick and not many things I'm good at, but I'm a pretty good driver at high speed. So I crashed 18 police cars, but
that's got to be a record.
None of them, there was only one of them was going forward at post race to reverse initiative. You can see out the back. Because they're utes with dogs and something.
Yeah.
But, so I never had I had one high speed accident when I was a trainee. And then, other than that, I drove pretty well. So I never had a crash and never had any real issues, but I drove super quick.
Yep.
So even just stuff like that, there was a lot of
potential for
just risk-taking behaviour.
Yeah. Yep.
What then? Got you out of the force? Was it PTSD or was that afterwards? So
it was. I didn't realise at that stage, so I got angrier and angrier.
Yep.
I wasn't more violent in the sense of violent with people other than criminals. So, but I was more and more willing to be violent.
Yep.
And I can't really fight. But I'm a 0 to 100. It's the violence of action.
Yeah.
So to me, like if I'd go to every domestic I could find because I've always just had this putrid hatred for men who bash women. Mm-hmm. And I've never had an experience in that. It wasn't in my family, but I just have always hated bullies. So I'd go to domestic violence situations and I'd just be there. And if the guy was even looking half like he was going to be violent to us,
try to get it out of him.
I'd dominate him and I'd just go, you're a hero, mate. Bash your wife, you coward.
Yep.
I just belittle him until he either had to submit or fight.
Yep.
So again, not the smartest behaviour. But so I got more and more angry, and everywhere I went in my life, I just found angry people. So if I was at work, I was in 2 or 3 fistfights a week. If I was out with my mates drinking, there'd be fights and I'd be in it. And I can honestly say I never started a fight, never threw the first punch, but was so willing to be in it.
Yep.
But I was so fucking angry all the time, you just pull that out of other people.
Yep.
Because you've got other young men, similar age, and we used to go, what's Jade Woody now, used to be called City Rowers. We go to City Rowers, we owned the place, the bouncers loved us, everyone loved us. The coppers, so we'd be there, and there was a particular group of mates of mine, there's probably a dozen or 15 of us, and there'd be different ones who weren't working, we'd all go, and there'd be NRL rugby league teams would come up from Logan or Woodridge or somewhere else, so they would hate cops.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we were cocky, arrogant motherfuckers too, so we thought we were pretty cool. So there'd be some sort of, stare-off comp, and someone would say something and it'd be on, and there'd be like 15 blokes just punching on. And I'd be right in the middle of it, terrified, because I'm thinking I can't fucking fight, but never really got injured, never really, I just seem to skate through stuff.
Yeah.
Somehow.
Was there a moment in the job, like a job that...
Definitely.
Yeah, that was obvious to you that something was up?
The last shift I ever worked, I worked at 6P to 2A, at Logan Dog Squad. So I went to covert surveillance for a couple of years, 18 months, and then I went back to Logan. And I was already knew things were going bad, but I was like, I didn't know what else I was going to do. Like we talked earlier about identity loss.
Yeah.
I was like, if I'm not a cop, what do I do? So that's when the suicide stuff was bad for a couple of years, or probably 3 or 4 years, because I was like, wow, if I'm not a cop, then I'm nothing. I don't want to live. And so I went to this job and I knew, like I was driving around and I was having what probably now were panic attacks, I reckon. Bad anxiety, but I didn't know, like those things weren't talked about at all in the late 90s. So I went to a 6B2A. I was nearly finished work. I was like 1:45. I was driving home. I lived at Cooperoo, and they called for an any unit job to go to an attempted murder. So a bikie stabbed another bikie 14 times at Jacob's Well down near Logan, past Logan. And that job for me years earlier, I would have driven from Mount Isa to if I could. And I was like, yeah, fuck, I'm not going to that. So they sent 2 uniform cars, and then they called me by call sign and said, you know, I was 572 or something, 572, you go to that job. I was like, oh, please tell Comco radio operator, I will incur overtime, so maybe get the Gold Coast Dog Squad to come up. I never put in an overtime claim for my career. Like, I didn't give a shit about overtime.
Yeah.
But I just didn't want to go.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, from Comco, overtime authorised code 2, like stuff that I would normally be like, this is like Christmas. So I went there quick, but nowhere near as fast as I normally would, hoping that would be over before I got there, which I just had never ever done. I'd started to then, probably 6 months, but prior to that, never done. Drive in there, get there. He's run into, it's a rural property, he's run off. So he harnessed my dog up, go, Duke, with 3 or 4 other coppers. I have no vest on. They're all vested. Because I would have been quite happy to be killed.
Yep.
So I was really,
you just didn't care at that
didn't
point.
give a fuck.
Yep.
I would have been really happy to be killed. And that had been my thought process for probably 3 or 4 years. Because I was like, as silly as it sounds, the pain ends. And it probably wasn't this clear, but the reality of it was the pain would stop. I would be a hero. There'd be a massive funeral. People would go, fuck, Sog's a legend. I would live in that legend status the rest of my life.
Yep.
And they'd name a police boat after me, which they do. And that would be it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And sad now I look back. But so I go to the job and we harness my dog up and we find him in this caravan. He comes to the door with a carving knife and with a machete and a carving knife covered in blood. And he's pretty much off the Richter scale because he just stabbed someone 14 times. I'm standing no cover. The boys and girl were all behind trees and I had my Glock still holstered, my drop holster, and Duke's going nuts. And I'm like, come out of the caravan, motherfucker. And he's like, nah. You know, we're screaming at each other. Fucking C words, backwards and forwards. And he goes, I'm not coming out. You're going to put the dog on me? I said, yep, 100%. So, but if you don't come out, I'll put a fucking bullet in your head. And I drew my Glock, John Wick style. Couldn't do it again. Right? And straight at him.
Yep.
And my energy and attitude to him at that point, he shit himself. And you've got to take into account, he's a stabbed someone 40 times. Like, he's loose.
Yep.
The anger and violence he saw in me from 0 to 100 and me draw my weapon was enough for him to go, fuck. Dropped the knife and dove out on the dirt, and I put the dog on him. We go in, search him, cuff him, walk him back. And I'm not even talking to the other cops. I just want to leave. And I put him away. They walk off to start obviously doing their investigation. He's in the back of a sedan. And as I go to get in my truck, it's not far from me, probably here to, probably 5 or 6 meters, 10 meters max. He starts losing his mind and kicking the windows out in the back of the car. So he kicks the side window out and he's screaming. And the other guys were a distance away, probably, 25 metres, 30 metres by that stage, towards the crime scene. And I'm just instinct kicks in again. And I go over, open the door. He's got his cuffs in front of him. He comes out, spitting blood on me, trying to bash me with the cuffs. I just grab him by the head and just give him punch him in the head a couple of times, spin him. And he's a big guy and he's violent. So I'm actually going, this could getting pretty hairy. He's hit me on the shoulder a couple of times with the cuffs, but he's missed my head. And then we just went to the ground in all the glass next to the car. And I had just got him in a choke and I was choking him. And I thought I was whispering, and you'll see why clearly I wasn't. And I was like, I'm going to fucking kill you. Like, I was just pretty violent. And then he went unconscious. And I went and got a bit of rope out of the back of my silent lead and we trussed up his feet, like hog-tied him style.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, so their car, there was 2 cars there, but then your car will be a crime scene now, so you have to get a van to transport him. I'll take this young female police officer with me. So I said, you come with me. And she was really hesitant to get in the car, which I understand now. At the time I was like, I don't know what's wrong. She's heard me, I presume now, telling this guy I'm going to kill him. And I was fucking serious. And we get in the car, we're driving down the driveway, and I looked at her and she was looking out the window and she had a tear running down her face. And I said to her, you okay? And she looks at me and she's pale. And she goes, I thought you were going to kill him. And I said, me or him? Him, I was. And then she looked out the window, wouldn't talk to me. So I'm like, I had all these judgments. I'm like, you're weak, you won't make it in the job.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a gender thing, it was just me being a fuckhead.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're not going to make it, blah, blah, blah. So I drop her off at the station, about a 10-minute drive. She didn't say a word to me, didn't look at me, couldn't engage in conversation. She got out and literally nearly ran out of the car. And I'm like, you won't make it. Drive home, go to bed. So it's probably 4 o'clock or something, I don't know. 3:30, wake up at 5 in the morning in tears, shaking, just having what I now realise is some sort of breakdown, mental breakdown. I didn't know what it was. And I got up. So I wasn't married, but I was with my ex-wife now at the time. My girlfriend, I'd get up, go outside, just have a drink of water, sort of dust myself off. Don't really remember how it passed, I guess. Went back to bed. Woke up in the morning, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to work. And a number of my mates from the dog squad and cert were going to the races to get on the piss for the day. So I was like, oh, it sounds like a good idea, I'll do that. So I went to the doctor. The doctor goes, mate, you've got glandular fever. He goes, oh, what do you hear? I said, oh, look, I'm just a bit crook, doc. And I felt normal. Like, he goes, I'm pretty sure you've got glandular fever. And I was like, yeah, that's why I came. But I figured that would look a lot better on my certificate than diarrhea or some other bullshit I was going to do. So he goes, go home, go to bed, don't do anything. You're in a really bad way. Like, my respiration's to the roof, heart rate's to the roof. He goes, you're really in a bad way. I'm like, oh, yeah. It just felt normal. So I went home, got dressed, went to the races, got on the piss all day till 3 in the morning. And the same guy who got me in the dog squad, he was there. There was probably only 3 or 4 of us left. His wife, my partner, there was probably 8 couples, 4 couples, 8 people. We're in a bar down in the Story Bridge at the top end of Queen Street, and he's outside having a domestic with his wife, and he was a similar sort of fiery personality. We were super competitive, but really good mates. He's outside having a fight with his wife. I go out and deem I'm the best person to mediate it. 15 hours on the drink, so I go out. She's like looking at me and him like, look, this is going to go bad. And I'm like, you're right, you go inside, it's fine. She goes, no. And I didn't give her a choice. So she goes in. We have a 5-second, 12-second conversation about his attitude. He throws a right hook, clips me. I throw my best straight right, break his nose. And we end up fighting. We're in the gutter. Then we're crying. Then we're, I love you, man. And arm in arm, standing sort of fair. And I realised then, we were talking, and I realised then he was in exactly the same place I was. Same anxiety, same fears, didn't want to go to work. And we would train together 5 days a week, minimum. I was at Logan, he was in a different unit. We would meet in town and train together, talk on the phone 2 or 3 times a day. Like, we were so thick, but I had no idea. And he had no idea.
Yeah.
And then I went on sick leave and I didn't go back, pretty much.
And that was your last shift?
Yeah, that was it.
Wow.
Done. So, and in that time, so the sick leave I took was for glandular fever initially. Mm-hmm. So I went to the doctor. They took blood on the Saturday. I went back Monday. He goes, you're fucked. Like, if you don't look after yourself, you'll end up in hospital. And I was just like, felt fine comparative to how I normally felt.
Yeah.
I had a horrible hangover and demons on the Sunday, as you can imagine. And I'm like, oh, I've spilled my guts to my mate. I'm thinking he's going to think I'm a coward. So it was awkward with him and I. We didn't talk for a couple of days. And then I went on sick leave and I was on, and that's when it really started to fall apart. And because I had time to think, I was on my own.
Yeah, yep.
So my wife didn't know any of this stuff at the time. Certainly didn't know. If she did know, and it's pretty hazy, my memory of it, but she certainly didn't know the depth of it. I hadn't talked about PTSD or depression. I think I might have said, I've had enough of the job, it's pissed me off. You know, it's just that sort of thing, but certainly nothing about the fear or the anxiety or panic attack stuff. And then, so I was at home and my mates who were still covert, a couple of undercover guys and a couple of surveillance guys, really good mates of mine, we'd go out to lunch on a Tuesday and just get full of piss because that was like their weekend.
Yeah.
And so I was drinking really heavy and it got to the point, her and I had a pretty abrasive relationship, not physically violent, but certainly we were emotionally abusive, if I'm realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Had no respect for each other. Or in arguments, we had little respect for each other. So she had left and gone to her parents for a couple of days. And I lay 3 nights in a row, would drink most of the day, lay at night with my Glock in my hand. Because when I went on sick leave, because we took our weapons home, they didn't take my Glock because it was sick leave, it wasn't stress leave.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm lying there, 3 nights in a row, Glock in my hand, full of piss, crying, just going to kill myself. Something, I don't know why I didn't, and I think and I'll touch on that now in case we don't get back to that. I believe there's 3 phases of suicide, 3 types of suicidal ideations. And this is my opinion. It's not, it's not a medical opinion, but from so many soldiers and police I've spoken to, this is my belief. There's one lot of people who talk about it for attention.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean that in negative attention, but it's the cry for help.
Yeah.
Yep.
They talk about killing themselves because it's a way to get people to know they're struggling. There's a second type in the category I fell into, which was it's a safety net. So it's literally like a parachute. If shit gets much worse, I'll kill myself and then I'm okay.
Yep.
And I was like that in hindsight, probably even as a teenager. So, and there was some suicide stuff that had gone on around our family that I won't go into detail of it, I don't want to identify people, but I had heard that at a young age. I'm like, yeah, cool. That could be. That obviously was just an option from a young age. And not someone had said to me, oh, you can kill yourself if you want. It was something I'd overheard. It wasn't an intentional thing. But by that stage, I was like, well, that makes sense. And then the third one to me is the people who have a plan, execute it, no one ever knows.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that I really break my heart because I go, they're the men and women who are struggling. I read an article today about a guy who suicided in WA Police in February. And his son wrote an article and said his dad's 54 years of age, beautiful man, blah, blah. He had been struggling the weekend before at his son's birthday party. And he'd said to him, how can I help you? His son's not a cop. The dad is. And the dad's like, no, I'm good, mate. I'll never do anything stupid. Don't ever worry about that.
Yeah.
He'd already made had already made the decision.
Mm.
So for the people who listen to your podcast, and as funny as the stories are and that, and I enjoy that, the real message I want to get out to anyone who's listening to this who's struggling is the very real possibility is you're in one of the first 2 categories.
Mm.
You just need help.
Yep.
The people who are actually going to execute the plan, you need help now. And I didn't get it for years, and it nearly cost me my life because I was too fucking weak and too much of a coward to do it. As in to get help.
Yeah.
Too weak and too much of a coward to get help.
Mm.
The thing for me now is going, the reason I do these stuff, I write my book, the reason I do podcasts, the reason I do keynote speaking to police, military and whoever, is because I want to tell my story and the fun part that we talked about that I love too. And I just sort of click back to reality then and go, fuck, I'm not here to tell war stories.
Mm.
Right?
It's so easy to get wrapped up in that.
Because I love that show. Like, that was my fucking life. And still will be the most fun in 13 years I've ever had, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
No one's going to give me a gun, a dog and a car and let me go berserk now.
Yeah.
Not after I hear this.
I was going to say, not after this episode.
Not after everything else I've done. But I wrote a book about this. I do podcasts. I do all this stuff because what I want to really get through to your listeners is everybody has challenges.
Mm.
I don't care if you're a soldier or you're a police officer. If you're a stay-at-home mum or a baker or a butcher or a candlestick maker, everybody has challenges in their life.
Yeah.
The severity of it doesn't mean that, it doesn't need to be a particular level where suicide becomes an option. It's a physiological fight or flight response to stop pain.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So people think of killing themselves to stop pain. Someone who's had horrific burns wants to die because the pain's overwhelming. It's a mental equivalent of that.
Mm-hmm.
Often it's an injury, PTSD. Like, PTSD to me is a massively, in my opinion, overused terminology.
Yeah.
We've said this before.
It's far too broad-based.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because it covers someone who gets rear-ended in an accident, to someone who's had horrific sexual abuse, to someone who's a police officer or a soldier.
Mm.
And I think it's just too broad a spectrum because I don't feel like anybody in that realm gets treated with, I don't know how to really put this, not treated with respect, but gets recognised for the particular circumstance that caused their mental injury.
Their exact incident.
Because if it's a car accident, I get it. Like, I understand someone you're driving, I know somebody who was rear-ended by a bus and had really bad back injury and had PTSD and struggled with that.
Mm-hmm.
Totally understandable. A male or female child who's been raped by someone who, at a young age, or a woman who's been sexually abused, or a man who's been sexually abused for that matter, have a totally different type of injury and impact that needs to be understood in that. And then people like us, who we're not victims of anything. And this is something I want to be really fucking clear about for your listeners. If you're a soldier, a police officer, a first responder, whatever, and you have PTSD and depression and you're struggling, I feel for you and I'll do anything to help you. But you fucking chose to do that job.
Yeah, 100%.
We signed up for it.
Yeah.
We're not victims.
No.
Somebody who gets sexually abused as a 5-year-old kid is a fucking victim.
Yeah.
Somebody who gets run up the arse of their car and has their back broken is a victim of circumstance.
Yep.
We're not victims.
No.
Nobody put a gun at your head or mine and made me strap on a uniform and a gun, or you.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I really go, that's where we, as people in this community, need to stand up and start taking responsibility and also holding other people to account.
And I think it's important for our community, like you say, we're not victims. You just need to find a way to deal with it now.
Absolutely.
You're not a victim. We just need to guide you through it, basically. Help each other and guide each other
100%.
through it. Yeah.
And I talk about stigma, and I did like over 62-hour critical stress workshops in the QPS last year, and AFP and Queensland Corrective Services, and probably 70 or 80 actually with all of those. And the overwhelming response from it is when I stand in front of a room of 15 or 115 police, corrective services, federal agents and the AFP, whatever, it's all the same shit. No one answers questions. No one talks. Everybody stands there, sits there very still with their arms closed with the mask on because they're like, holy fuck, I hope he can't read me.
Yeah.
The people next to me can't hear what I'm thinking because I'm shitting myself and that's me up there.
Yep.
And I get text messages, Facebook messages, emails after those things all the time where people just go, you could have been telling my story.
Yep.
They read my book that I've put, that I published, and I get so many people go, holy shit, that was my story. So I recently had a guy who's ex-police and ex-military. He was special weapons cop in QPS and AFP, then left AFP and went private security contracting in Iraq and Afghanistan for 10 years. And was a loose unit when he was in the police. Like, I didn't know him, but I was sort of leaving as he came into that. Like, I did a lot of work with CERT, special weapons team, and that he was coming into that as I was leaving the job. But by all reputation, we're mutual friends, and they're like, we think you're loose, he's loose as fuck. And I got a phone call just before Christmas from a guy I hadn't spoken to in 20 years who's living in Singapore, and rang me and said, hey, do you know this guy? I said, I know of him, never met him. He goes, he's going to kill himself. We're all convinced that we can't help him. Will you help him? I said, yeah. Tell him to ring me. He goes, he won't ring you. I said, well, I can't help him. So he rang me, and I said, hey, mate, how are you, mate? Yep, good. And, I said, how you going? No, I'm not great. I said, so, our mate told me that you're going to kill yourself. He goes, yeah, I think I will. I said, okay. I said, well, have you got kids? So I knew he had kids, so I won't give details. I don't want to know. But I was like, well, mate, you owe it to your kids to meet me and talk to me. I said, I've been where you are. I know your story. I've been there. And I said, and if after that you still want to do it, do it. And he's like, oh. And I said, cool. So I'll see you at 2:00 at this cafe. And he goes, this is 11 o'clock in the morning. He goes, no, I can't get there at 2. I said, that wasn't a fucking question. I said, that was a fucking statement. See you at 2:00. And he was like, okay, I'll come. And I was a lot more vicious in my language.
Yep. And,
he turns up. He's a hard dude. Like, he's a pretty big guy. He's like my size, covered in tats. Been in probably 100 contacts overseas. Has shot a couple of dozen people. He's a hard motherfucker. And he's, long prescription drug addiction and a whole lot of stuff. We talked for 2 hours. I took another guy with me who he knew and I'd done some work with and helped. So we had a connection. And I said, like, this guy was in a bad way. Now he's a lot better. He's like, yeah, so he really knew how to help me, blah, blah. We had a chat. We got to a point where I had that same chat with him about, you chose to do it. And we got really heated.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, listen, you fucking C-word. Like, I was really giving it to him and he's giving it back to me. And I said to him, and it was at the cafe you and I were at and met at, and I said, you want to have a swing, don't you? And he goes, yeah. I said, good, make the first one count. You're not going to get a second one. So I'm happy to go. And I was terrified. He's a tough looking dude. I'm like, I don't want to fight him. It was all bluff. And he broke down in tears. And, I'm like, you're not going to fucking kill yourself. I said, you're better than that, mate. You fought for your country. You did the stuff, like, blah, blah. I said, the shit you've been through. I said, you can beat this. I said, everyone's just told you you're a fucking victim, so you think you are, and you're powerless.
Yeah.
That's what we spoke about.
I said, you're not fucking powerless. I said, mate, if you can face guys with guns, you can fly to a country to fight a war to protect our country. You can, saddle up every day and go into jobs where people are trying to kill you in the police. I said, fuck. I said, you can beat this.
Yeah. It's one thing that annoys me that's kind of in the ether around media and stuff at the moment is, and it's been going on for a long time, awareness of things and awareness campaigns, awareness. But, it's gotten to the point now where, everyone's aware that people have issues and things like that. But where do you go from there? Because all people are seeing then is people being victims. And no one's talking about, how do people, here's a helpline, here's whatever, but no one's actually discussing like, this is what I did, what works for me, because there's no one.
No, it's all,
solution.
buy this wristband and raise awareness. Buy this, raise awareness. Okay, well, you can do that, but what are we going to do to actually
And the reason we do that, people, and I think, and I know you're not belittling it, that's a great idea. Awareness is fantastic.
Yeah.
But there's another piece, and as arrogant as I sound, and I'm the king of sounding arrogant on some things, is that's where the gap I feel.
Yeah.
And there's other people out there that's doing it, I'm sure. I know of a couple more recently. I don't know many people who do it the way I do it because I don't give a fuck what people think. And I actually don't. When I sat and spoke to those young guys at the private school today, I was really hard. There was 130 of them, and I absolutely gave it to them. So I didn't swear at them because I used wasn't bad language, but I wouldn't the language I'd use with cops. I didn't use obviously. The 15-year-old schoolboy. But and I said, you boys have got a choice. You can be leaders or you can be cowards. They are the only two fucking choices the only two choices in your life. So be a leader and make your decisions and be the man you want to be and get down the path you want. Take control of your life and be responsible for the decisions you make, or be a coward and follow everyone else and be a sheep. And it's the same freaking story for soldiers, police, ambos, fireys, anyone who gets in the situation where they're struggling with mental health or any health for that matter, is take some fucking responsibility for yourself because no one else is coming.
Yeah, that's it. It's this victimhood. It's people. I'm very cynical, and I think a lot of people are milking it as well.
Sure, and mate, and I challenge you on that, Shane, to go. There are people who milk it, 100%, but I don't think they're the majority by any means.
No. But I think a lot of the spokespeople, self-proclaimed spokespeople for certain movements and whatnot. I'll
be really careful what I say, but I want to get a message here. There's people that I see out doing stuff for police and military and whatever that, and it's going to sound super egotistical from my point of view. I do what I do now because I left the police in 2001 and spent, 2002 to 2005. I did a little bit of, I saw Sykes a couple of times, but I just cut it. I drank piss. I had a pretty good crack at recreational drugs, cocaine and ecstasy for 12 months. Then when we got married, then when my daughter was born in 2005, I was in the delivery room and they handed her to me. There was a complication with birth for her. She wasn't breathing when she was born. So by the time they brought her back to me, they just had to suction some fluid out of her throat. They gave her to me and my wife. She was otherwise engaged, is the easiest way to put it, without going into detail. So they gave me the baby, and I sat in this chair in the corner of a room, a corner of the birthing suite, while they were attending to my wife, and I was like bursting into tears because I looked down at my daughter and I was like, "Fuck! Now you've got to get your shit together." And I still feel really emotional about it because it's that was the sliding door. That was the sliding door moment in my life, and there was more after that. When my second daughter was born in 2008, definitely the same thing. Because I'd fallen off the wagon and been back to being a bit of a...
So up to that point, you had tried treatment, but it wasn't working, wasn't fitting.
Yeah, Shane, I went to psychiatrist, great guy, awesome guy. He was more loose than me, I think. He was really good. He said he got PTSD. And in 2001, mate, I'd never heard of PTSD outside of Vietnam veterans.
Yeah.
And I had utmost respect and still have utmost respect to Vietnam veterans and any veterans. And I was like, him and I had a stand-up argument in his office the first time I was there, and I was in tears, I was broken, and he said to me, "Tell me about the last week at work." And I was on go slow by that stage. And I said this, and this. And he goes, "I didn't want the last month, just the last week." I said, "That was the last week." And he looked at me, he goes, "Holy fuck. And you really got to understand, I'd slowed down to probably 50% or less capacity at that point. So it shows that how full on I was. And he goes, well, tell me what other stuff you've been in. I was in a car chase and a shooting in the valley where 2 guys shot themselves in front of me, and I've had guns, multiple guns that I've had pulled on me or taken off people, and, like that guy under the bed, different things like that. People try and stab me. And he was like, mate, you have PTSD like a Vietnam veteran. And I said, we had a massive argument. And I said, you are fucking joking. I said, those men went overseas and risked their lives crawling through tunnels to fight an enemy they didn't even see, they couldn't see. And I said, I spent half my time doing laps of the city trying to get girls' phone numbers. Like, it's just not comparable shit.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's like, I'm telling you, what you've told me you've done. He said, I can only imagine what that is, over 13 years. He goes, mate, you've had a 40-year career in 13 years. You've probably seen more than most of those guys did, like whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I still refute that, especially I think for Vietnam veterans, I refute that.
Yep.
Because that was a different encounter.
Yeah, that's another interesting topic.
Misconception?
No, well, I think it was James Brown, who was an ex-cavalry officer. Iraq, Long Shadow of Anzac, and he talks specifically about that. Younger diggers, or even veterans of today, constantly comparing themselves to that Anzac legend.
Sure.
And that's also having quite a role to play in that identity and always comparing yourself and things. And like you were saying earlier with PTSD, there's, comes from different things. So I guess in a way, it's like, I suppose what he might have been trying to get at was, the amount of stuff that you'd gone through, fucking hectic.
And the thing is, and mate, and I wasn't, and I mean this sincerely, like I wasn't exceptional by any means, and I'm not just saying that to sound falsely humble. There's heaps of police who are like that.
Yeah.
There still are.
Yep.
It's a different environment. There's more constraints and there's more oversight, I guess. But there's heaps of soldiers like that. There's heaps of, like, anybody who joins a career to help other people. If you're a firefighter, if you're an ambo, like I look at people like rural volunteer firefighters. Yeah, volunteer firefighters. Like I look at those guys and go, holy shit, you have a job and a family and everything. You will leave that, not get paid, go and get in a truck to your own financial detriment, safety, everything, and go and put your life on the line in the rural fire service. For what? So people go, hey, good guy. Well done. I go, that's a different type of person. And that's what I think this community we talk about is. And that's everybody from, emergency doctors and nurses. I've got 2 cousins who are emergency doctors. One of them flies Life Flight. One of them's in the emergency department at Redcliffe Hospital. I'm like, those guys are there working 12, 15, 20-hour shifts, literally the people's lives in their hands. Emergency nurses the same. Like there's a whole gambit of people, and I will leave people out, who do extraordinary things as human beings to their own detriment to help other human beings. And we pay them fuck all because they don't do it for money.
Yeah.
Like you said earlier, it's because you genuinely want to, you love it. You want to go help people. Yeah.
And that to me is the thing that I really want to get out more and more. And it's what drives me to do what I do. Like I do corporate stuff and mentoring business people and that, and I love that, but I love this. Yeah. I love this more than that because I can impact those people. But this community, I have such a unique perspective from 19 years with the dad as a cop. So I understand what it's like to be the family member, like the son, the family member of people who do what you guys do and what I used to do. I understand it as the operator yourself. I understand coming through the other side, but I never wanted to coach. I never wanted to do this. I was never going to be the poster boy for PTSD and fucking depression. It wasn't my thing. I just wanted to get my shit sorted. And I did every happy clapper course with fucking kinesiologists and hypnotherapists and you name it. I did it all.
Tried it all.
But just the weirdest shit.
Did you ever have anyone that is like you now talk to you the way you talk to people? Because that's what I like about you, Shaun. Like, I've only met you once prior to this. But straight away from the get-go, you speak my language. And that's, that's how I reckon you'd have so much success with military or police, because you talk the way the culture talks. You don't need someone who's going to cuddle you and, it's going to be okay. You straight through the bullshit.
And the thing is, mate, there's a lot of people out there who, like, I deliberately, like all the courses I did, like I sat in a room with 300 people for 3 days in a row talking about their feelings and shit, this American thing. I fucking hate it. And literally, like, we're sitting next to people, like next to someone I didn't know in this massive auditorium. My sister took me to it, and I love her to death. She's a great girl, and she's but they split us up, like it's one of those don't sit near people you know.
Yeah,
I hate that.
And yeah, exactly.
The seats at the front, come down.
yeah, 100%.
Yep.
And I'm just sitting there like, holy shit. And there's people standing up talking about childhood sexual abuse and violence, and I was like, what the fuck? Why are these people, like, shut up.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear this shit. They're crying. I'm crying. I'm like, this is just bullshit. And when I got there the first morning, I sat in the car park for 20 minutes and just wanted to leave. But I was like, I've got to do it. And I did a thing previous to that. My auntie is an ex-Catholic nun. So my dad's family's got 15 kids in it. It's a good Irish Catholic family.
Was she very strict? Like,
yeah, there was 3 nuns.
Holy
and they
shit.
were awesome. So they had 11 kids and 4 adopted because my nana was abandoned when she was 3 years of age to a convent.
Oh, okay. Yep.
And my pop did 5 years in PNG in World War II. And so he came back an alcoholic and no doubt, like, not diagnosed, but no doubt he was in depression.
Yep.
He was a pretty angry old dude. But so you got all that, also epigenetic family history of stuff. But I went and did the thing with my auntie. It was a 7-day silent retreat down the coast, and you see how much I love to talk. It was a fucking nightmare. And and it was all about trolling through your feelings and journaling, and I hated it. But it sort of started it. That really started it. And that was after my daughter. It was probably 6 months after my daughter was born. And my auntie, the nun, a couple of an uncle and auntie, so her brother, who's only 15 years older than me, and his wife, who I still love to death, are just amazing people, really helped me a lot through my entire life, have always been there for me, very loving, connected man. And I've modeled a lot of myself on him as a dad and as a partner and as different things in the last few years. And they were always really good, but never strong enough with me. So they'd go, oh, Shaun, we think maybe you should go and do, it's called the retreat. It's called Bethel Retreat. Go and do the retreat. I had cousins who did it. It's amazing. My sister did it. They're like, you should do it. You'd love it. And I'm like, yeah, no fucking way. And then eventually I did all this stuff. And I eventually ended up working with a woman who's a kinesiologist, so muscle testing and whatever. And when I met her, she was a friend of my sister's. So I'd done all this stuff. I did that 3-day course that I hated with the American thing. Then I did 1 night a week for like 12 months of like what they call a mentoring program where you go for 3 hours and do the same shit and it's different topics. And I fucking hated it, but I was like, if I hate it this much, I need to do it.
Okay.
Because what made me comfortable for all this time got me here.
So is this like your daughter still driving you to do this?
Yeah, and I'm just obsessive too. So I'm an obsessive personality.
Yep.
So I'm like, if I'm in it. Tell me I can't do it, I'll fucking do it. But it was really just a drive, like it was really a gut drive to go, you've got to change your shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because I was like mid-30s. Like, you're either going to kill yourself, because suicide was still a real option.
Yep.
Real option at that point. And the thing that saved me was probably I didn't have a gun. If I got my hand on a weapon at different times, I would have killed myself.
Definitely, yeah.
Because when I left the job, trying to establish myself in a new career was tough. Like, there was a whole lot of that shit that was fucking horrible.
Yeah. And the identity stuff after leaving.
Massive.
Yeah. Yep.
Thanks, mate. Massive. Bigger than anything.
Yep.
And I remember when I handed my badge in, the boys came around, one of the dog school guys came around and picked it up. And I think I left it in the letterbox even. I didn't even give it to him because I was too embarrassed to face him. And I was like, fucking who am I now?
Yeah.
Like, literally, who am I as a man, when that badge represented, from my earliest memory as a child, who I wanted to be.
Yeah.
So I literally was giving up 32 years of my identity when I put when they took that badge. Well, I handed it in. And at the time, the police commissioner at the time was a friend of my dad's. And I went and met him a couple of times, had lunch with him, and went out. He took my ex out and I out to dinner and with his wife, and he said to me, he goes, Shaun, and not because I was exceptional, but I think because he knew Dad was certainly a big part of it. He's like, mate, I'm losing so many people at your service, at your age. He goes, we can't afford to lose guys like you, blah, blah, blah. He was giving me these massive raps, and And I was like, oh, he goes, you know, why? And I told him why. I said, you know, I think the job's fucked, and blah, blah. And he goes, what can I do to fix it? I said, short of sack everyone between you and me and start again. I don't know. and because I was leaving, and I wasn't aggressive. He was a gentleman, a lovely man. And he just looked at me and goes, well, sure. He's really quietly speaking. He goes, well, Shaun, I can't really do that. And I said, no, I guess you can't. I said, so I've got no answers for you. And he goes, well, why don't you just think about it? Because I was on sick leave for 9 months, and I went sent for an IME, an independent medical exam. The psych that I didn't understand the process. No one told me. I didn't know anyone had ever been down that road.
Yep.
Never heard of PTSD. Didn't know anyone had been on stress leave. So the psychiatrist goes, you're fine. Oh, there's nothing wrong with you. You can go back to work. Like, I think you're making more of this than you need to, because their job was to get me off the insurance claim.
Yep.
Right?
God,
so,
bad.
Yeah, real bad.
That's fucking bad.
And it still happens to an extent these days. So I was like, so conflicted, like, maybe I'm making this up. Is this all bullshit?
Yep.
Fuck, you are a coward.
And then you don't want to talk about it again.
So I literally just resigned and left. And when I had put my papers in, it's when I went, when he asked me to go and see him. And he goes, you can go anywhere you want to in the state. And because he goes, what do you want? What else would you do in the police other than dog squad? I said, nothing. And he goes, but like nothing else. I said, well, I would probably go to the armed robbery squad, because I had a heap of mates in there at the time who were pretty loose, and they were doing amazing work. And I said, I'll probably do that. I said, but I'm not a detective. And he goes, I'm the commissioner of police, Shaun. If you want to go there, you go there. And I was like, good point. And
not still in, is he? Can help me out?
No, he's not. But he was like, so mate, you can go anywhere in the state you want. And I'm not pumping this up. It wasn't because I was exceptional. It's because he knew my family. Obviously, he goes, look, I don't want to lose guys like you. I will. And he obviously saw that I was struggling and that there was a light at the other side of the tunnel, but I didn't see it. I was too big-headed. He goes, you can go anywhere in the state you want to go. I was like, no. So when I quit, I was fucked, because I just didn't know what I was going to do for the rest of my life. Who was I going to be?
Yeah.
And it was amazing to me, and we touched on a little bit before, Shane, not having that identity as a police officer, and it'll be the same for military, to actually feel like I was going to do something significant with my life. Because I wasn't interested in fucking being a bank Johnny or doing some other bullshit job that meant nothing to me.
Yeah.
I don't mean it doesn't mean anything, but it meant nothing to me, because I didn't want to be normal. And so I worked in commercial real estate for like years, hated it, paid really well, but I just hated it. There was no purpose to it. There was no soul to it.
Yep. Yes.
So as I went through all my stuff getting better, then I met this woman who did kinesiology with my sister, and she was quite an overweight woman. She's younger than me, quite an overweight girl, like not in a caftan, but it might as well have been like this flowing sort of florally fucking dress. And when I went to her house the first time for this appointment, she was it was incense burning. I was just a typical sort of hippie environment. I was like, what the fuck? And so I cruised in, and she's like, oh, you know, your sister told me about blah, 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 you know, that you're having some challenges. I said, yeah, you know, police. And I told her, I can't remember if I even told her about PTSD, because I never talked about it.
Yeah.
I talk about it so much now, I can't remember when that started. But I don't think I'd even told her about it. And so she did muscle testing, kinesiology, and I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's freaking amazing. So it's this really, so she would test this system of emotions, of the negative emotions that I was feeling and why and what part of my life it was in. And I was like, and it was so accurate. I was like, this is amazing. So then I worked with her for probably 12 months. Didn't tell anyone. Yeah. Because I was like, fuck. And literally, so I was running a small team I was a national leasing manager of this $1.6 billion investment fund, shopping centre fund. Sounds super impressive. It wasn't. But there was only 3 of us in the Brisbane office and a handful of guys around the country. And like we'd fly interstate to go to the big steak restaurants and dinners and fucking corporate cards and all the stuff that you think's cool. And it was just a wank. The 2 guys I worked with were awesome blokes. We had a good time. But I would go, I got a meeting. They go, well, what meeting? I go, see ya. No, so I just wouldn't tell anyone. They go, where were you? I'd make some bullshit up. Yeah. Because I was so scared of anyone knowing. Yeah. And she was brilliant. And after about 12 months, she said to me one day, she goes, I can't charge you any more to treat you. She goes, because it just doesn't seem right. And I was like, what are you talking about? She goes, I don't know who's coaching who here. She goes, when we turn up and have these conversations, she goes, you're teaching me as much as I'm teaching you. I was like, right. Because I was reading books, like every book I'd get my hands on, and going down this spiritual rabbit hole. And I'm Irish Catholic, Irish generations ago, but I was brought up a Catholic, altar boy, all that sort of gear. But I didn't believe in, I've always believed in something, but I wasn't religious. Didn't go to church, didn't do whatever. As I went down this whole spiritual rabbit hole thing, I was like, there's answers in this shit for me.
Trying to find like a new purpose or who you are. Yeah.
Just fixing myself.
Yep.
And got to a point where I realised like I was good at sort of helping some people. And then her and I would run these, we called them emotional boot camps. And so funny now, on a Tuesday night at this house in Paddington where she was, and it was mainly women. So there'd be like 15 or 20 women in this room, 2 or 3 guys maybe. And they would come and just talk about, so it was a group she'd started, and just talk about what was going on for them. And they'd go, I'm really struggling with this thing or that thing. What do you think? And we'd just give them advice. And as time went on, these different people are like, wow, you're brilliant at this. This is amazing. How do you know that? I'm like, well, I don't know. It's just common sense. But it was the same thing that made me really good as a cop. It's just instinct. It's intuition.
Yeah.
And we talk about intuition and everyone freaks out because it fucking sounds all weird. But it's just gut feel. It's literally just listening to your heart and gut.
Yeah.
It's what makes you a great soldier or a great cop. Because when the shit's going fucking bad, you don't have time to think.
You just fall back on your instincts.
Fall back to your level of training and instinct.
Yep.
And I look back now at so many situations as a dog handler and just as a policeman in general where I should have been seriously injured or killed, but something in my gut guided me at that time. Just, there's 1,000 examples, but, stuff that would happen and I'd just be like, I was tracking a guy one night for an armed robbery and I also realised years later that I've got shit night vision. Like I can't really see in the dark. And I didn't know that. And again, it's what you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So well after I'd left the police and so it was in about 2011 or 2012, I was living up the coast with my wife and my daughters. And one night I was walking through our bedroom. My wife was in bed and I kicked my toe on the corner of the bed. And my standard like, fuck, blow up. And she's like, why'd you do that? And I was like, what do you mean, why the fuck did I do that? So I'm getting the shit. And this is very standard of our conversations. And I was like, what do you mean, why'd I fucking do that? I didn't see the bed. And she's like, what do you mean you didn't see the bed? And I'm like, it's pretty fucking simple. I didn't see it. It's dark. I can't see in the dark. I didn't see the bed. She goes, no, I'm not trying to fight with you. Like, seriously, can you not see the... I'm like, I can't see a freaking thing. She goes, well, that's not normal. I can see. So unless there's quite ambient moonlight, I can't see jack. And I've never tested it to go whatever, but I would run through backyards and shit and it was just, there's nights where it's pitch black and it's dark, there's no moon, there's no stars, anything. No one can see jack. Mm-hmm. Now I realise even when there was a fair, stars and stuff, I still couldn't see much.
Yeah.
So obviously I just have shit night vision.
Yep.
But I didn't understand that. But I would follow the lead of the dog and know where it was and what it was doing. So it's more like, I guess, because my sight wasn't great, your other senses are better or something whatever, I don't know. But and there was one night I was tracking this guy at Chermside, he'd done a stick up, and we went over this, we got to this fence and the dog went over and was searching around and I just had this overwhelming feeling and used to happen to me often and I just turned to my right and hit the torch and old mate's there. So the dog, because he'd been sitting for a while, there's a big scent pill, the dog's gone through the scent pill.
Yeah.
And he's probably gone over the fence because it was too, if you went out to the next street, we had a cordon set, so I'd say he's probably gone over, come back and hidden. So the dog follows the scent, is trying to find it again because he's at the end of the track and obviously doesn't realise to backtrack yet.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've just gone, boom, and old mate said, now I didn't hear anything, it's just instinct. And you guys in Afghanistan or whatever, or in the police, would have had those experiences.
Yeah, 100%. I remember one day we moved to a patrol base and we couldn't take one of the trailers because someone wasn't coded or some shit. And so we were there overnight and the next day they meant to send it out. No one rocked up who was coded, so the person who was running it at the time decided he wanted it on the road to move down to the other patrol base. And we were like, no, there's been activity along there. There's more than likely there's an IED. Sure enough, there was. So they've pulled up and the engineers are doing their thing and they sent out a patrol of grunts with the Afghani army guys as well. And as they were patrolling along around, there was a secondary device, obviously targeting that very thing. And it was very lucky that the Australian guys managed to avoid it. However, the A&A guys behind them hit it. And because we were sitting there watching it, and we couldn't quite see the guys, but we could hear all the radio chatter. Sure. And all of a sudden, I just looked at Holsey and went, oh, fuck, something's not right. And like within 3 seconds, just saw this boom, fucking massive cloud of dust come up. And it's like, fuck, that's weird. Like, I had no idea why, but yeah.
And that's the stuff, we've all got that instinct, intuition. And I've got a million theories on mine. There's stuff called quantum physics and quantum science now where they actually have proven, because we're all made, essentially the science of it, we're all made of energy. So at the least, like every cell's made of atoms, every atom's just energy, essentially. And that's where they go like, this is energy. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't understand how it works. But so essentially it's the same thing that I go, and I use this very stupid analogy. If I'm now I'm too old to be bothered, but when I was your age, if I sit in a cafe and there's a hot girl walks in, or, you know, in the bar or something, and I'm looking at her going, holy shit, she's smoking hot. I'm looking at her like, wow. And then she turns around and looks at me like, oh, fuck, she can hear me. So, you know, and everyone's had that sort of like, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That is that same. We're all connected energetically. Like, we all have that whatever it is.
Yeah.
Your instinct is what helps you read that. So when you walk in a room with someone, you're like, yeah, I just don't like that person.
Yeah.
It's a gut feel. And then your rational mind takes over and goes, you don't even know them.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've always been really good at that. Even recently, there was a person I met with a group of friends, and this, I was like, nah, dickhead, don't like him at all. And they're like, wow, you're harsh. And I'm like, I'm not harsh. He's just not right. There's something not right. And they're like, no, that's not true, blah, blah, blah. And then a period of time later, like over a couple of weeks, some of the things he did, they're like, oh, well, he's a real creep. I said, I fucking told you. Because I just you feel.
Yeah, yeah.
And whether I've just always been that person, whether, like, neither my mum and dad are super spiritual people. I've never been exposed to any of that sort of stuff. So, that to me is really, I think, what makes me so good at what I do, because I can read people well. And I'm not afraid anymore to be really emotional. Like, if I was talking on this podcast and end up in tears, I don't care. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
If I sit down with someone and I've got to go, you know, like they, you know, so many people I've talked to, ex-police, ex-military, and current serving both. And I'm like, how often have you thought about killing yourself? And they're like, what? I said, you fucking heard me. And they burst into tears. And another guy I worked with recently, he's not military or police, but another very, very high pressure, and he's a very high performer in a particular industry, and has had some significant trauma in his life with death of people close to him. And him and I we had a meeting at a cafe, and he, as I'm talking to him, it was the second time I'd met him, I was doing some work with him, and he starts tearing up. And I said, let's go for a walk, mate. So we walked up a little bit away from the cafe. It's where you and I met. So I walked up away from where the people were, and he burst into tears and was like sobbing. And he's a guy like mid-40s, hard man, great man. And he's sobbing and sobbing and sobbing. And I put my arms around him and I hug him. And I said, I love you, man. And I said, you're okay, brother. Like, you're fine. And he was like freaking out. And so I let him go. And I said, what's wrong? He goes, I said, why is that weird? He goes, don't you think that's weird? I said, yeah, we fucking all do. I said, why do you think? I said, that's what men are like, mate.
Yeah.
I said, that's what we need to be for each other.
Yeah.
Give a fuck.
Yep.
I said, of course I feel weird. And he goes, I said, I wasn't going to kiss you. You know, he goes, well, and I said, but that's the weird thing for men, showing a lot of emotion is we go, oh, let's fucking go.
Yeah.
And I go, number one, who cares if someone's gay or not?
It's 2019. Who
Exactly.
gives a fuck?
100%.
Yeah.
So number one, get that out. Like, obviously, to even have to say that's not an issue is ridiculous. But
Yeah.
but go like, and also the idea that just because someone's gay, every gay guy's going to find me attractive is also fucking just so arrogant and ridiculous.
Isn't it? So arrogant.
But it's how heterosexual men think.
Yeah.
It's another whole podcast.
Episode 2 with Shaun O'Gorman.
So I go, and I say to this guy, but mate, you've got to understand, and I've very circuitous route, but this is where I wanted to get to, is the real alpha male is a man who is super emotionally connected and caring, who's someone who will break down in tears and be vulnerable. It's someone who will live out of his heart to be the best man he can be as a partner, as a dad, as a friend, as a son, as a boss, as a fucking whatever. But he's still a hard motherfucker if he needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And
Yeah, that was something I wanted to, probably should have asked at the start, because I feel like, again, in the social fucking sphere, a lot, when people do even try to have like a reasonable conversation, I think a lot of the barriers become like up against is definitions,
100%.
people using different definitions. So like, what is to you the term alpha male?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mate, to me now, I'm the epitome of what an alpha male is and should be.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds very conceited, but I'm proud of it because I go, I'm far more emotionally connected than I am tough. I'm far more sensitive and vulnerable than I am trying to be like a fucking hard man.
Mm-hmm.
And how I explained it to that guy I was talking to you about, there was some weird dude in the park in these little pair of shorts with no shirt on doing some sort of posing routine when I hugged him. And I turned around and I go like, well, what are you worried about? He goes, oh no. I said, are you worried that weirdo is going to think it's strange? And he goes, well, yeah, I guess. And I said, mate, the real essence of an alpha male is this, is that I have the confidence in myself and the vulnerability to hug you and tell you I love you and I've only met you twice because I love you and I care about you. And I said also, if someone walks past and has a chop at us, I'll tear their fucking throat out. And I said, that's what an alpha male is. Someone who cares more than they're violent.
Yeah.
Yep.
And to me, the best way to describe it is I lived an angry man for many, many years out of insecurity and fear. Fear of what people thought, fear of my own doubts, the imposter syndrome, all this stuff, which was bullshit. And I thought I was the only fucking person. I thought I was the only one who was scared because everyone else around me had the perfect mask that we all wear.
Yeah.
Every human being wears it, but every man, every alpha personality we talked about before, police, military, whatever, males and females wear because we've got to be tough. That's it. You can't be patrolling a fucking village in Afghanistan and break down in tears because of poverty or a kid you see that's had their limb chopped off because of the Taliban or whatever.
Yeah.
I can't turn up at a job where there's bits of bodies everywhere and fucking someone's killed their kid or there's, a woman's been horrifically bashed and her eyeballs hanging out of the socket and her husband's there. I can't turn up and sit down on the ground and suck my thumb and cry. It's not the fucking role.
Yeah.
So you've got to know how to just switch it off. But we have this perfect mask and we never talk about insecurity or fear. We never, ever, ever go, holy fuck, that job scared the shit out of me and I'm really struggling with it.
Yeah.
So the shooting job I did in the Valley, and I didn't give you the details, it's irrelevant, was hectic. Bloke was in a twin cab ute. We were chasing him. There's a long story behind it. And had a, what's an SKS? Can't remember my mental blank, but had a rifle, semi-automatic rifle, and was firing shots back at pursuing cars.
Through the valley.
Yeah.
What year was this?
1994.
Holy fuck.
So he came up Brunswick Street. He had the rifle on the roof, 243 rifle it was, firing shots back at pursuing cars, and I was coming down the hill. I was going to ram him, didn't ram me. I was going too fast. There was 7 cars, and I did a U-turn and overtook 6 and got second in the chase. And we came down the hill, and the lead car was all over the road, uniform car, and I couldn't get past it. And I was getting the shits because I was just going to ram him. And they ended up with 24 rounds in the front of their car. These guys were 2 bad speed junkies and dealers, and they'd been pinched and looking to go into jail for a long time. So they went out with the express purpose of suicide by police. So they didn't get fucked, they killed. They crashed. I chased them on foot down the Brunswick Street Mall. It was a Monday night, 11 o'clock. A big pole came down, so the only other police who got through was the lead car. So there's a male and female in that. They're in the car, I'm on foot chasing them, they're pointing the rifle at us. I couldn't shoot because there was people around. Turn the corner, run down, and they both shoot themselves 10 metres in front of me. So first guy looks me in the eye, shoots himself. There was like 15 police cars there by that stage. As we turn and run down Wickham Street, they came from everywhere. And he turns, I've got my revolver on him, cocked, and I'm screaming at him. You can imagine what I was saying to him, put his weapon down. And he looks at me, puts it in his mouth, pulls the trigger, hits the ground. I run in on the second guy picks it up, other way around. Driver puts it under his chin and pulls the trigger. Second guy picks it up, puts it in his mouth and pulls the trigger as I'm meters.
Yeah.
Second guy died that I went to, first guy lived. And out of the police that I know that were at that job now, that they're significant, like the 2 pursuit guys, guy and girl, me, a couple of others, all have left. And out of that, like I left, policewoman left, guy left, was driving road trains in Northern Territory or something, detective left, and all struggled. And that was the worst job I did, or best job. It was actually the best job I did, but
the most stress levels though.
But we didn't talk about it. They had a debrief. I didn't go to it. we did a homicide squad walkthrough and everything. I didn't give a statement for court, never went to court because I just ducked it. I never gave statements or did paperwork, but I deliberately ducked that job. So the two police in front of me got Australian bravery medals for that job. So the highest possible Australian police bravery recognition, and I got nothing. I doubt I'll probably even show up on that job because I just ducked it. So we're back to work, just fucking.
Yeah, yep.
And I look back at that and go, wow, imagine if the three of us, and I knew them reasonably well, could have sat down and had that just gone, fuck, that was so bad. And the only debrief I got was that afternoon, the afternoon, I finished at 11 in the morning, went back to work at 2, couldn't sleep. I rang my dad and I'm like, mate, fuck, how do you handle this? Because he shot and killed a guy in 1978. He goes, fuck if I know. He goes, I don't know how to handle it.
Yeah, well, just knowing that someone else has gone through the exact same thing as you, because I've lost count of the amount of times that I've called you or you've called me, and that's like one distinct one was when I was leaving work and I had a plan. That has helped out by having someone there to talk to and call at any time has just been invaluable.
And the thing for me out of all of this stuff is why I wrote my book. Like, and I hope you guys haven't read it. There's just no secrets in that book. Like all of my darkest demons are laid bare. Childhood, coppers, afterwards, being a shit human with so many different things in my life is all laid bare in there. And
what's your book called, Shaun?
It's called My Dark Companion.
Okay.
So it's suicide. It's my dark companion. That I go was always with me. And you can get, it's online on Amazon or iTunes or whatever. There's a million places. If you just Google My Dark Companion, you'll find it.
Yeah, I'll throw a link in the description.
Thanks. There's links on my website on the Strong Life Project. So the thing that was so ironic, when I wrote my book, someone said to me I should write it. I've thought about it for years. I started writing it. When I finished it, I got the first copy of it back, bound to proofread, and I was terrified. Because when I was writing, it was massively challenging. Like, I wrote over about 12 months, and it was really freaked me out. And Rach, my partner, was amazing. And when I got it, I read it, and there's a photo of me on the front of it. I should have bought one in here. Because of course I've got copies in my car. There's a photo of me on the front of it with my head in my hands from about 1992. My dad was president of the police union, and they wanted someone to do a photo shoot for a police poster, for a police union poster.
I've fucking seen that picture. Yeah.
So it's still used. Yeah, they still use
Holy
it.
fuck! Should have brought it. You could have got an autograph.
Yeah.
So they still use it, right?
Yeah.
So as I'm writing my book, and this again comes back to the things happen for a reason, spirituality, how I don't know how it works. But when I was writing it, I was actually thinking about what am I going to put on the cover of this book, because I want an image that's going to portray what it's about. And a guy rang me who is the executive director for welfare in the Queensland Police, who's a guy I knew when I was in the job, and we're pretty good friends. And he texted me one day in amongst me writing it, and sent us a photo of that poster on the door of the CPIU, the Child Protection Investigation Unit door in Mackay Police Station. And I hadn't seen it for years and years and years. I'd forgotten about it. And he's like, sent me this photo. He goes, you still haunt the hallways. And I looked at it and I was like, fuck, that's it. That's the image.
That's the picture, yeah.
So I rang the guys at the General Secretary of the Police Union. He's a mate of mine, said, can we get hold of that? He goes, wow, I can't believe you're ringing me now. We've just been talking about trying to track down the photographer because we want to use that image for morph. It's just this bizarre thing.
Serendipitous.
Right? Serendipitous. And so they sent it to me. So I got the book, my photo's on the front of it, and it's the 22-year-old balls to the wall, wannabe tough guy pretending to be hurting. That 10 years later at 32, that photo just represents fucking hauntingly who I became, and for many years. When I got the book, I opened it, and I got it where I was working, and I opened it and I was terrified. It was about 18 months ago. I think it was, anyway, 2 years ago, 18 months ago. 2 years in May, actually. And I got it, and I opened it at my office, and I didn't tell anyone there that I was writing a book about this stuff. And I was like, shit, and I looked at it, and it really freaked me out. So I was like, fuck, now it's really real.
Yeah.
Anyway, I put him in my backpack, went home, pulled it out. I was at Rachel was at my place for dinner, and I was like, I didn't. I said, I got my book. She goes, oh, that's great, hon. That's amazing. And because we talked about it so much over a year, she'd read the transcripts. She'd been through the whole thing. She didn't get the impact. Neither had I. And I opened it and I literally flicked it from page to page half a dozen times. And I'd flick to a page and open it and read it and go, why the fuck did you put that in there? And then I flick to another page and go, oh, fuck. Why would you say that? Like just shit that I was like, you are so bare in this. This is ridiculous. So I was really, and I was actually sitting there going, I'm not going to publish it. Nah, fuck it. I'm not going to do it. And then I just, as I do, I was like, fuck. So I took my phone, took a photo of the front and back and put it on Facebook and said, hey, I wrote this book, blah, blah, blah. And I was terrified. Like I was shitting myself. And about 40 seconds later, the first couple of comments were like, oh, wow, great job. That's awesome. And then it just went berserk.
Yeah.
It was probably 400 or 500, I don't know, 400 comments or something of people just going, holy fuck, how brave's that? And I was like, wow. And I actually sat and I got really emotional about it because I thought, fuck, if them just knowing I've written that and they just see the images and they don't even know it's in it yet, has that impact, maybe I'm onto something.
Yep.
So, I've there's been heaps of people who've read it and I've got messages from cops overseas, States, Canada, heaps of Australian police and other people, like normal people, who just go, that's my story.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly the same stuff.
Yeah, we're going to need to read this book.
Yeah, I'll give you a copy of it. I've got it in the car.
That'd be awesome.
And because the thing for me is going, whether it's my book, whether it's my podcast, whether it's whatever, and I am a narcissistic personality. I love fucking attention. Like, I'm not going to hide that. Like, and I love it because the more attention I get and the higher my profile is and the more I can do this stuff, the more people I'm going to be able to help.
You're helping more people by doing it.
And I'm really honest to go, I used to say to myself, I would say to people, and I believe this bullshit, I would go, oh, if I could just help all these people, but no one ever know who I was, that would be my preference. So it's just a fucking lie. Because I love people knowing who I am because I represent something that I never thought I could ever become, which is confident, happy, emotionally connected. Like I'm just living a great life. And I'm so happy. And I still have challenges. I'm in the middle of family court with the girl's mum about custody and different things. And I still have massive challenges and stress, but I'm fucking happy. None of it gets me down.
Yeah.
I don't ever think about suicide. I'm never depressed because I just chose not to be. And it's not that simple. And I'm not trying to be a smart ass in saying that. But I chose to be the leader, not the victim.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which enabled you to take steps and to slowly build that up over time. Like it's not, today I choose not to. It's a very slow fucking process.
The first day I chose not to 1,247 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. And these days I might have to choose twice. Mm-hmm. Or I might go a week and not even think about it.
Yeah.
But it's repetition. And to put it in our context of military or police, you didn't go to the range the first day, pick up a weapon and know how to fire it.
Yeah.
And that's why we put so many rounds down range, especially military more than police. But you put so many in weapons.
Actually, no, I think coppers probably put more rounds down range than fucking army does, man. It's insane.
Oh, actually, yeah.
So when you look, so I always use the example of, CERT, and I'm good mates with some of the boys at CERT and do a bit of PT training with that sometimes.
Sorry. Can you, because I know what it is, but for all the people who don't know what it is.
Sorry, guys, it's a special emergency response team in Queensland Police, so it's their SWAT unit. Yeah. Special weapons unit. Great guys, awesome boys. And I've been out there done a couple of these presentations and they were amazingly receptive. And some of the guys that I was in the docks when they were at CERT were there. And some of the other stories I tell about stupid shit I do, there was one that involved them, I won't bore you with it, but called myself out on my day off, got there, the boss told me to leave, it was a siege, a bloke was firing shots out of the house. CERT were there, the boss told me to go home, abused me because I didn't tell him and I just drove across Brisbane Code 2 on Friday night, 6 o'clock on my own. Get there, he's like, go home. I'm like, oh, sorry, boss. Drive around the corner, get out, vest up, go through the backyards and go in the inner cordon. And all these stories, I honestly got to a point where when I started going back and talking in the police, I was like, fuck, it's been 20 years, most of these stories. I'm like, maybe I just pump these up in my head so much. Because, every time you tell a story,
add a little bit or something.
We all do, right? Yep. So I was literally like, holy shit, I may have based this whole book just on fucking stories.
Someone's reading it going,
20% true.
Sean actually went home that night. I don't know why he's...
and talking without a word of a lie, that was my fear. I was like, fuck, maybe I'm just full of shit. And I went to the CERT boys and there was 3 or 4 of them who are my age, who are like their bosses there, and they came up at the end, and I was like, and as I started telling that this particular story, and it went for about 5 minutes or something, I was like, fuck. Some of these boys were there. And I was looking at the guys and I'm like, holy shit. And I was really panicking, but I'm like, that's how I remember it.
Yeah.
So anyway, got to the end of it and they came up and they were like, awesome, bro. That was amazing. Thanks so much. And I was like, holy shit. Because there was all dog squad cert and PSRT riot squad. And that was my little area of lunacy when I was in the police, all those guys, alpha males. And a couple of guys, I said, let me ask you a really stupid question. I'm going to sound like a real dick. I said, but I got halfway through that story and shit myself because I thought maybe I just pushed that up. Maybe I pumped that story right up. And one of the guys, who's dry as, he goes, are you fucking joking? He goes, I was lying in the inner court next to you at that job. I said, I don't remember that. He goes, and you told us, don't tell anyone I'm here because what you did. I was like, right. And he goes, I was standing next to you when we all walked out together. So the bloke came out in the morning to get a pizza. So we lay there for 13 hours in the mud, in the rain, and I was like, this is the best fucking job in the world.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't care. And guy came out, we put the dog on him, tackled him, the boys took him out, got the weapon off him, and he had a couple of hostages, and we all walked out together, and I thought I was the coolest cat, because I was with the big boys, like fucking with the dog. I was like, I totally forgot I'm not supposed to be there. Walked straight into the boss, and he just absolutely tears me a new one, like just uses me in front of all the boys. And these guys go, oh, fuck you, mate. Because we all stand there going, why is old mate going off at him so bad? And then we remembered you weren't supposed to be there.
Yeah.
But these guys, like, to go out to talk to them and have different guys come up to me, and I got the privilege recently to go out and talk to the guys that were coming off their selection. And which I don't know if, like, you know, if anyone's ever done before on this for this sort of stuff. And I said, this, you know, this is repeat, this is what you need to look out for, blah, blah. And they were amazing. And I go, just even the attitude of those guys comparative to my era, where they're talking about it more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they're taking responsibility for themselves. People are still struggling. There's still shit going on. It's still tough. But all of that stuff for me is the reason the book, the reason I do those talks, the reason that I bare my soul with all this shit. And it could really come back and bite me, you know, some of this stuff. And I often think about my daughters and I go, like, they're 14 and 11. And are they going to look back in 10 years' time and go, I just wish Dad would shut the fuck up?
Mm.
You know, like, why does he have to lay everything bare? Because that's their life too, right?
Yeah.
But, and I may live to regret it, but I'm super self-aware to go, if, it's something I say at the end of every presentation I do to police, and I will, because I'm doing stuff at the SRC soon at Inogra and stuff at Soldier
Oh,
Island.
okay. Yeah, sweet.
Doing some stuff at DVA and that, right?
Yep. Sorry, when is that?
May, I think.
I'll have to tell the boys on base
Yeah,
about it.
definitely.
Yeah, so I'll let you know.
Yeah.
So the captain out there who runs it's awesome, fantastic woman. And I guess the easiest way to describe it, when I talk to police at the end, I'm pretty brutal, and I say to them, well, we go through heaps of stuff, and a lot of it's around 5 things I'll touch on in a minute we talked about earlier that I think really are the keys to good mental health. And one of the last ones, and I say to them, but at the end of the day, it's your responsibility. It's your responsibility to look after yourself, and it's your responsibility to look after your mates. And I'm not naive enough to think that most blokes are going to look after themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But for fuck's sake, start looking after our mates better.
Yeah.
Because soldiers and police and other people in society kill themselves at fucking horrific rates. And policing is actually less than half the statistically of the rate of the general population. I think military is probably higher.
Yeah.
From what I know, I'm not intimate on the stats.
They told us to say, I can't remember now.
Yeah, I don't know the stats, but they're not great. But the leading cause of death for men between 15 and 44 or something is suicide.
Yeah.
In this country.
Yeah.
It's fucking
That's
ridiculous.
crazy.
It's double the fucking road toll.
I don't know if you've heard of Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, love him.
Fuck
Absolutely
me,
love
man.
him.
His book, 12 Rules.
Yeah, read it. Awesome.
When he talks about responsibility, like, that's been a mantra that's been ticking through my head, and I've been mulling it over and trying to figure out how to integrate that into my life, and it's slowly starting to become a thing that I'm thinking more and more about. And that's the other thing I wanted to ask you. Like, you talked a lot about alpha personalities, regardless of male, female, and I suppose like just the experiences that you've had that have made you the person you are today, and it's taken a lot of years and a lot of seeing a lot of terrible things for you to become this person. How would someone like, because I guess where I'm coming from is I'm starting to stress now about having kids, and how do you get the like younger kids to see that like that responsibility is the way to kind of find that purpose or teach them that kind of thing? Like
lead them.
Yep.
Lead them. Simple. And it's what I was going to say about policing that ties in.
Yep.
Because I say to cops that if I'm doing a presentation, I go, if this afternoon someone you know puts a gun at their head and pulls the trigger and kills himself, can you stand at their funeral in 5 days' time and look across their grave at their family and say you've done everything you can to stop that occurring? If the answer is no, change your fucking behaviour.
Yeah.
That's it. And I don't give a fuck who you are. Police, military, if you're a baker, if you're a party clown, I don't care who you are. Look after your friends. Male, female, gender non-specific, I don't give a fuck who they are.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, do it.
Yeah.
Because it's serious shit.
Yeah.
People are dying that don't need to die. Marriages are disintegrating. People are fucking drinking themselves to death. They're addicted to drugs. They're self-harming. Kids are being grown up with no parents because we're not fucking addressing this shit.
Yep.
We're not addressing this shit in so many areas. And it leads into what you're saying, Shaun, about how do you be a good dad? And how you be a good anything is lead. Is have integrity, which is do what you say you'll do when you say you'll do it.
Yeah.
Don't be full of shit. Tell the truth about everything at all times. And sometimes that's really hard. But be the person you want other people to be. And I live by this now.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm happy to sit here with you guys and tell this story so openly, and a number of times during this, as we're talking, I'm just like in my head, shut the fuck up, you idiot. Like, I'm like, nobody cares what you think, you fucking idiot. You're just full of yourself. Like, those voices are there now.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy.
Like, and I'm like, and I literally, it's like I have this fucking argument in my head, and we all do.
Yeah.
Everyone does, right? But we don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm like, the insecure part of me is like, shut the fuck up. And the other one's like, no. This is important shit.
Yeah, mate, we're learning from it here.
I often feel sometimes that I'm like somehow schizophrenic and like I'm slipping through the cracks.
What you are, brother, is normal.
Yeah. Because it's just an argument going.
Well, we haven't been doing this that long, but when we first started, we were both like, you more so. I think in our head, we're like, oh, shut the fuck, no one cares. Like, what we're saying, is this even relevant? Like, shut the fuck up.
And I will listen back to this. I'll listen back to every interview I do. And the overwhelming thing that I'll be anxious about is you did fuck all talking and I was all of it.
I was thinking about that before because I was looking at it before and I think it was like 50 minutes or we're in an hour and I was like, I don't give a fuck. This is going as long as it goes.
Yeah,
and look,
we're getting stuff.
I'm happy to come back and do this again with you guys.
Fuck,
is that still going?
It's thank God.
What are we at?
An hour 40.
Holy fuck!
We should probably wrap this up.
Ken, talk.
Mate,
Jesus.
Before we do, like, just explain where people can find you and how you can help people.
And look, and I will definitely come back.
Yeah, mate, definitely.
Awesome.
There's so much to cover.
And even something you and I spoke about briefly, and I'm not dropping this on you. We certainly don't have to do this. That if your audience has questions that they want answered, then get them. Either send them to me and I'll answer them, or I'll come back and answer them for them or whatever.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. Yeah, guys, if you've got questions, definitely, Instagram, Facebook, message me or Shane. Just get them to us. We'll get Shaun back on and we'll see if we can answer them. But yeah, where can people find you, mate?
So this www.thestronglifeproject.com. So everything is The Strong Life Project. And the strong in Strong Life stands for living with strength, tenacity, resilience, optimism, nurturing, and generosity. That's what to me living a great life is.
Yep.
Instagram's the same, Facebook's the same, LinkedIn is Shaun O'Gorman. Podcast is the Strong Life Project podcast. I've done 118 or 19. Sorry, 1,018 or 19. Sorry.
Yeah.
1,019 daily podcast, 10-minute podcast.
Yep. Oh, okay. Holy shit. I was going to say, holy shit.
Yeah. No, not in
Yeah.
Joe Rogan status.
So they're, and they're 10 or 11 minutes every day on different topics and a lot of sort of stuff we talk about today.
Yep.
Articles, like there's different podcast interviews I've done on my website. So just Google it.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's a great way. 10 minutes, like, oh shit, yeah, I'll write that down. I'll look up that article and read it later. That's a fucking good idea. Let's steal it.
Yeah. Mate, we'll definitely get you back on because there's so much more to talk about. But mate, Shaun, thanks for coming down.
Thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Maladjusted Monkeys, we're out.